Every so often, people complain that the game I cover in a video like this one is too old. This happened when I talked about Martin Wallace's Anno 1800. That game debuted in Germany in late 2020 and then came out in an English language edition only in late 2021. So while people in Germany and people who had imported the game had already played it thoroughly, they were looking for an expansion, they'd sold it because they didn't like it, whatever it is, they were done with that game. We're wondering why I was covering something that was a year old. And yet for most people, the game would have been brand new. And honestly, that's true. For most of the games I have on the shelf here, they will be brand new to most people, even if they're a year old, and even if they're classics within the hobby game playing community, because most people are not familiar with everything that is available on the market. That is a short explanation to explain why I'm talking about Arvid Füller's Take, a game that debuted in Germany in late 2017 from Hook. This game is now, finally, early 2022, having a release on the US market by Rio Grande Games, so I thought it'd be time to talk about it, because it's new. Here are the components for Take set up and ready to play. There are 35 chips, 7 each in 5 colors, with those colors corresponding to different characters: Daimyo, Ronin, Geisha, Ninja, and Samurai. To set up the game, you put all the chips in the bag and draw them out one at a time or in stacks of 7, whatever suits you. And as long as you don't have a stack with 3 chips of the same color in a row, you're good to go. First thing you can do on a turn is to use the power of a character that you have, but no one starts with anything, so we progress on. You are going to choose the top chip of an available stack and put it in your collection, marking that stack with a ghost token, which means it is off limits until all the ghost tokens have been put out and all the stacks are covered. You take a token and put it in the appropriate column. Samurais, you can put it in the column of your choice. And whatever color you reveal is what is scored for both players. So a samurai would score once because there's one samurai visible. No one has any samurai because the game has just begun. We move on. The opponent perhaps chooses this Ronin, marks the stack. Samurais would score twice. Again, no points. But you're taking tokens because you can see what is in all the stacks, and I know that the Daimyo is in here and is going to score. So perhaps I take a Geisha, reveal the Daimyo. I would score 2 points. My opponent would score nothing. And we continue. So I know there's a Daimyo under here. It's going to score as well. However, all the tokens other than Samurai have special powers associated with them. So my opponent could use their Ronin, which allows you to mess with the ghost tokens. You can move a ghost token to a different stack. You can add a ghost token from the reserve to a stack, or you can take a token and put it back in the supply. So you're affecting the pace of the game and what is available. Let's say they do this. And now they choose a ninja on their turn. The Ronin is revealed. They score 1 point. It was 2 points until they used it. So they got the power out of it, but now it's worth fewer points. They score only 1. I have 1 choice available to me. I can take this samurai that is going to score ninjas, and ninjas will score twice because there are 2 ninjas available. Let's put my samurai here. I'll score 2. The opponent will score 2. We have parity, and that's it. This would be covered. Everything now is removed. And because I just took an action, it's now the opponent's turn. So you're looking in the stacks, you're going to see what's going to score. Maybe you go ahead and take the Ronin. Ronin will score. Player gets 3 points. I'll talk about the scoring track later. Well, what else do I want to do? I can take this ninja to score daimyos twice, but maybe first I want to use the power of the daimyo. You can move samurai tokens to different columns. I'll move this over here, take this ninja, reveal the daimyo. Daimyo score twice. I have 2 points in this column. I get it twice, so 4 points for me. And we continue on. The geisha's power. Well, it's the opponent's turn. Let's do the ninja's power. The ninja can sneak across to my side of the board and use the power of one of my non-ninja characters. So the player could use the ninja to use the geisha, and the geisha power takes a token from an available stack and moves it to another available stack. So perhaps we want to go here? No, here. And then on their turn, they choose a geisha, mark the stack. Now they get 2 points for the geisha. I get only 1. So it's very small scoring, but you're trying to squeeze out an advantage with each action that you take. So they move the token over. This will score Ronin. They'll get 3 points off that. When that happens, I could use a ninja to use their Ronin to add a token on here so that they can't choose this stack. I'm going to choose this stack, put this here, score daimyo again. Now I get 3 times 2, 6 points. All right, and clear this off. Maybe that was a pointless use of my ninja, although now I have lowered the power of their Ronin, so maybe it is not pointless. So they can choose the ninja on their turn. This scores twice, they get 4 points, and we carry on. You're going to keep taking actions until all the chips are gone. Underneath each stack, there is one of the 5 colors in the game. I wish these spaces were a bit larger so you can see the color more easily and not just have to move them aside or remember the order that they're in. When you get down to the bottom, let's say we get down and the final token is taken from this stack, well then geisha would score. You would mark this stack. Geisha would score twice because there's 2 visible. And that is now the space has a ghost token on it. You can't use the geisha to move there. You can remove it with the Ronin, but it doesn't do anything because the stack is empty. Okay. You could move it on this spot here, and now you can use a geisha to move a chip over. You can use the power of each character once on a turn. So I could use a ninja, then I could use a geisha, I could use Ronin, I can use everything once to combine things together to try to score as much as possible. The round would end in this particular case. If these stacks are covered, you do not have to have a token here, but once you reveal something on the board, each time something would score again, let's say these are finally gone, you take a Ronin off here, the geisha would score 3 times. So whatever is revealed first is going to score more often unless you use the power of a geisha to cover it up again. When you use a geisha and move a figure over, so let's say this player wants to use the geisha to go over here. Let's say they have acquired other geisha, they got a samurai here, they want to score a lot. They can use the power of a geisha, I realize I'm activating this again, to move a token over here. They cannot immediately take this token to score what they just covered, but it's set up for the future. Now they'll choose something for their turn like normal. We score the samurai, we mark the samurai, and on a future round, future turn, they can now take this daimyo and score geisha many times after revealing that. So you're trying to set up many things on the board, score repeatedly, move the tokens on the track, and end up with the most points when all the tokens have been claimed. I played Take 7 times in our review copy from Hook, 5 times in 2018, and twice in early 2022 when I found out the game was coming to the US market. I greatly enjoyed it in 2018. I wanted to refresh my opinion of it, see whether I thought any differently of it, and I love it as much now as I did back then. I just hadn't covered it because I kept feeling like I wanted to become more familiar with the game and play it more and really embed myself with it, and of course, because I have a bad habit of never touching a game once I do a video on it, because I'm moving on to something else. And so at the risk of that happening now, I'm doing a video on it. I find Take an ideal abstract strategy game because it does so much with one simple forced choice, where you have 3 concerns that are wrapped together in one decision that you have to make every single turn of the game. You are going to choose a character because you think you will profit from that character over the course of play. You don't want to take a color. If it's the last blue, well, great. Blue's not going to score anymore until you reveal that blue token at the bottom of the stack. You're going to take something that you think will score multiple times over the course of the game. You're going to take a character because you want the power of that character available to you. Maybe for the next turn, maybe sometime down the road. You want to leave options available to you, and maybe you don't want it in the hands of the opponent. You are going to take a character and reveal something that scores immediately, ideally netting you more points than the opponent. So you have those three concerns all wrapped together in that choice, where you've got the immediate payoff of the scoring, and then possibly the intermediate action available to you, or the scoring that will take place next turn. I take a geisha because you have only one stack available and you're going to score geishas, and then I'm going to get more points than you. Or it's just the nature of the characters and where it's set up long term over the course of play. I'm going to profit better off that than off any other choice that I have available. So you have the short, medium, long term all wrapped together in this one choice. Your opponent has roughly those same choices available to them. It's going to change a bit depending on what stacks get covered with the ghost tokens, what's off limits, but it's roughly parity. We start with that same situation. You have the ability to judge the stacks for how things are going to score and what opportunities can you make for yourself in terms of manipulating the characters and manipulating the tokens and manipulating your samurai and using the ninja to steal away your possible actions. All those little choices coming together, and you're going to take a character and things happen. You're scoring every single turn of the game. Sometimes no points are scored, especially at the beginning, possibly later as well. But scoring happens incrementally, over bit by bit. And often it's just like, I get a little edge, and you get a little edge, and I get a little edge, and often it's just, I score 2, you score 1. There's not much going on. But depending on how you set things up, sometimes you can have dynamic swings where suddenly 3 tokens are of the same color are revealed in the middle, and I score 15 points off that and jump far ahead. Those opportunities are hard to set up, but it feels really good when you can make it happen because the opponent somehow could not stop you from doing that. And it all depends on the flow of the turn order and the taking of the tokens and everything coming together. And that's sort of where the Ronin comes in, because you can add the ghost tokens to force choices upon your opponent. And that affects the timing of when you are going to have all 5 stacks available to you, and when your opponent has 4 choices, and so on. It's all little minor things that come together to lead to bigger results. So you've got this feeling of incremental advantage where you're trying to get things bit by bit, and then suddenly you'll have this swing where something big happens, or you use the daimyo to move samurai over because you know you're going to score something 2 or 3 times in succession soon, and then you can hit that and just bump up a lot and then shift those samurai somewhere else for another scoring down the road. So all the powers are valuable. Everything is beneficial, and everything is open roughly to both players from the beginning. It all just depends on the flow of the game and how it all plays out. And it's played out the same but different, right? I mean, it's just taking the tokens. So each game is going to feel relatively similar, and you have the tactical nature of what's beneficial now. You also have the judgment call of, is this good at this point? I can get 3 points versus you getting nothing, or should I save this for later? And it's hard to know when the right time is to use something, just because there's not really a great answer, and it all just depends on how you are going to respond to what I'm doing. And so I have a lot of great interplay with the opponent as you're bouncing off one another with different actions and trying to set things up down the road. I find it really amazingly good dance between the players, where it's that call and response of what you're doing and trying to set things up, and you know that you are going to help them score. That can't be helped. But sometimes you're doing something and trying to set up down the road and then hope it all pays off. I don't know. It's all just fits together perfectly. The game itself, the design, the graphic design of the game is not perfect. Let me show you that. I don't have issues discerning colors, and the 5 color choices in Take I think would be fine for most people. When you have the tokens in stacks, however, it can be a bit difficult to see exactly what's scoring next, especially sometimes the second token in the stack, the thing that will score, and you'll find yourself picking up a token or leaning down just so you can get a better idea of what's where. That can be a little frustrating, but if you have strong lights, often it's not an issue. What is an issue is the scoring track of this game, where you have this windy brick path that passes under bridges and then over the trail again and goes on the other side of the board and continues, and you often have scores that are above 120, so you start again on the other side of the path, and the tokens are too big for the spaces on the path. So if you have tokens that are supposed to be next to one another, you kind of have to turn them at an angle or fit them in a bit sideways, and really I should replace them with cubes to fit on the space better. I'm not sure what other solution would be ideal other than cubes, possibly with a straighter path or tokens. Maybe you just want to handle scoring tokens. All this part, the stuff in between my arms, is beautiful and I love it. And then this part here is just ghastly and bleh. You will be very unhappy as you are trying to keep score over the course of the game. Especially when you're here and you're suddenly like, I got to score 13 points. Where am I again? 20, I'm 23. And I go, okay, there's 5, 10, 13. Okay. Ugh. It's unpleasant to deal with all this. Otherwise, it's beautiful. I want something else. I should do something else because I love the rest of it. Now, the other issue I have is possibly just more a personal issue, but I'm not even sure why this game is set in medieval Japan. It's, I suppose, purely decorative. I guess there's some association where you have a daimyo that controls the samurai, can move them around. I guess that makes sense. And then ninja sneaks over to the other side of the board and uses one of those powers. You can't ninja, by the way, because that wouldn't make any sense. That would just be using one of your tokens. So the ninja sneaks over and uses something. I guess that makes sense. And the geisha will, lure someone over to another column. Okay. The Ronin moves a token. I'm not sure what that's all about. But it also just feels like you're boiling a culture down to these touchstones that everyone's familiar with, and you're going to have a game that's set in Japan. It's going to have these things, and everyone just expects it. And you lose whatever else you have of Japan. Japan just becomes these 5 things, and that's it. These touchstones. And we've got some greenery. We've got a path for the walking in the gardens of Japan, sure. But it just melts away, and you just have nothing left of Japan. I will admit that my complaint about the setting of Take is not really fully formed. It's just I see a lot of games in my work on Board Game Geek, and you'll see a game about Japan, and you know it's going to have geishas and ninja and samurai and daimyo, and you're just like, okay, here we are again in Japan. It's these little touch points that say Japan, and that's it. Or we have cherry blossoms, and we're in Japan. And an entire culture, setting, or people, lifestyle gets boiled down to just a few things, these stereotypes, and that's it. And that's all we have. And it feels weirdly reductive, and maybe it's just my jadedness from seeing so many things come up again and again, where I feel like I want different settings with different types of things that I'm not familiar with, just for some variety or difference, or I'm not even sure. But of course, eventually that's going to be reductive as well and boiled down. You're going to make a game and there's 5 elements in that game. What thing can we choose as a setting that has 5 things of importance that we can use for labels? Now, Take could be completely abstract and just use colors and have a power associated with a color and nothing else. That's mostly how I think of it as I play, because I'm not thinking that I'm a daimyo and I'm using that power. I'm not thinking that. It's just I'm going to use an orange and I move the gray things. But it feels like there could just be more variety in what's there, or something. Again, not fully formed. It just feels like, why this? Why this setting? And of course, maybe it's just because it makes for cool art. Take, by the way, is a Japanese word for bamboo. I'm not sure how that relates. I don't know. It sounds cool. If you translate it in English, it's just take. If you want to leave that out, and you are taking a token, and so this works. I don't know. I don't know. It seems unclear, and it seems like it looks cool. This graphic is different from what's on the board because it has a more cartoony look on the board itself. So is this sort of disconnect or incompleteness or just unsatisfactory feel for the setting and the gameplay? But apart from that, gameplay is excellent, wonderful. You sort of divorce yourself from that element of it, and it's fantastic. And I'm happy to introduce it to more people 4 years after I initially played the game. Maybe you won't take as long to give it a try, and you'll enjoy it just as much as I do. I can hope anyway.